She optimized systems for Fortune 500 companies until her own physical system broke down. What happens when the strategist has to engineer her own recovery? Kaye Woodward's transformation from a major health setback shows how discipline, data, and determination can rebuild a life and redefine what health success really means. Kaye Woodward is a performance optimization strategist and co-founder of Live-Alytics, a wellness analytics platform helping people achieve sustainable progress. After years in corporate leadership and process consulting, her own health crisis forced her to turn those skills inward to reclaim her energy and purpose. So, Kay, you spent years helping these organizations run at peak efficiency. When you think back to that phase of your life, what was driving you? What was your personal definition of success at that time?
Well, at that time, it was drive, go get it, run, 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 make the numbers. And it was exhausting, especially with the body that was breaking down. I was struggling with a connective tissue disorder, and throughout that process, I was facing a lot of pain on a regular basis, but not really knowing exactly what to do. But hey, it's not like we do when we get in our car. We get in, we crank it up, and the whole dashboard is red. We're not going to drive that car. But for ourselves, we wake up, haven't had enough sleep, blood pressure out of whack, glucose too high, life not running right, stressed out, but yet we get up and we drive that body to work every
Sure.
day.
So thanks for setting that stage for us. That you were driving towards that success, and that's what we want to try get into you with you a little bit as we go through this. Right now, I want to mind the people watching us and listening to us that you are watching and listening to Well Wave Now. And this is where timeless wisdom meets modern insight to help you live better and hopefully do so for long. So okay, most of the time, I think this challenge kind of hits you kind of midlife, and I think and I remember my corporate days and others when you're in that sort of mode that you talk about, make the numbers, drive success, hit the goals. You kind of don't think those health challenges are going to come at you. You think that happens to other people. So what told you so while you were, thriving there professionally, your body started sending signals that something was off? And what were those signals that started coming to you?
Well, I grew up and a lot of people call what I have double jointed. So it was, party trick when I'm growing up, but everything's all right until it ain't. And one day that instability in my joints and connective tissue, it turned into a dislocated rib when I'm trying to do sit-ups.
Mm.
So in the midst of that pain that I didn't even want to breathe through, I had to get help. And I ended up with 4 doctors in that process. And what was giving me pause was they all had advice on what I should be doing to get better, but they weren't talking to each other. And in that process, I'm trying to figure out, well, who needs to be in the driver's seat? It's got to be me. So if I know what they're telling me is working for me, then I want to amplify those things, and the things that aren't working, I don't want to do them. I don't want to take the pills. I don't want to do that experience.
Yeah. Was there a unifying message that came through from the various doctors that you were seeing, or were there disparate or different viewpoints that they had with what they were telling you?
It wasn't that they were disagreeing, because I ended up with a chiropractor who was able to put that rib back in that day. But he told me, this is not going to hold. You're totally unstable. You need a physical therapist. So in order to get to the physical therapist, I had to go through my general practitioner. And she was like, ooh, you have 7 markers for a specific disease. I need to send you to a cardiologist. So there I end up with 4 of them, and they're all saying, okay, the cardiologist says, got to get your resting heart rate down, got to get your blood pressure down, want to give you these pills, want to move that. My general practitioner is like, oh, girl, you need to lose some weight. And then, of course, my physical therapist is like, okay, 3 times a week, got to do all these things and stand up here and, stand on your head and do all these exercises head to toe. And then, of course, my chiropractor is like, oh, you got to be in here 3 times a week, and then we got to keep you stabilized. And I'm like, okay, well, what's working for me? What's not working for me? What's making me stronger? What's making me tired? What is what do I need to do to get better?
And you might not have been getting all the information you needed anyway from all those people.
Not from all those people, but I decided that I needed to be in the driver's seat, so I got busy learning.
Yeah. But now, so the cardio, and I think that's a good way. And I think you and I have talked about that agency that people need to have for themselves. We'll go into that in a little bit. But I want to, before we do that, I want to set the stage a little bit more. So you had the rib that popped out, and the cardiologist spotted these other things. Did the cardiologist think those other things were connected to your connective tissue disorder that didn't quite fit the complete bill of the thing? Or did he think it was something else that was going on in parallel with it? What was happening?
Yeah, the connective tissue put an aneurysm on my aorta. So I have a tricky situation, one of those drop dead kind of heart conditions. So they told me, I would need surgery if it kept growing, and I didn't want the surgery. So I didn't want it to keep growing.
Okay. And so what else was happening to you? What else was manifesting aside from now the displaced rib is not something to sneeze at, but what else was happening with you aside from the displaced rib?
It was just every day it was something that would fall apart. I could be walking and pop, something, my foot didn't work anymore and I'm hopping. Or I could be, trying to lay on my side and my shoulder collapse. It was constant. Even down to my relationship with my husband, it was like, don't lay your arm on me, it's too heavy.
Go ahead, Bob.
So
Yeah.
right.
So, Kay, what it sounds like to me is you were able for years to be able to compensate and hold on and make things work until you reached the threshold where that wasn't happening, we're working anymore. And then you started all your different systems and your anatomical systems started going over threshold and breaking down. And that must have driven you nuts, by the way. I mean, all of a sudden something happens and then the next thing, something else happens. You're wondering what is going on here. But I think you were really able to compensate, hold on, configure yourself, move a certain way to keep everything at bay until you couldn't do it anymore. And you probably didn't even know you were compensating in that way until you got to the point where, wow, everything's going over threshold and happening. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, yeah. It was, this was something that got really bad in my 30s. I'm almost 60 now. And Dr. Bob was my chiropractor back then. I had scoliosis so bad that I had to hold my head up like this.
Boy.
I didn't have the ability to hold it up. I couldn't stand in a line. I couldn't stay, I couldn't even go to the movies. And I had 2 young kids at that time. So how do you, take them on vacations if you can't be in a car for a long time? How do you take them places and enjoy activities if you can't be in a certain position for more than 10, 15 minutes without a lot of pain?
Sure.
So that was my first life-saving opportunity with chiropractic. He straightened my scoliosis up. At that point, my daughter was 8 years old. She saw my healing and she decided she was going to be a chiropractor.
Interesting.
And
Very
right
interesting.
now, my daughter is one of the best chiropractors in Knoxville, Tennessee. Shout out to Dr. Trey Taylor.
You got to have her give
Well,
me a call because I got to talk to her. That's cool. I like chiropractors.
But yeah, that care is amazing because again, I turned to them to save my life because when that rib came out, it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not breathing anymore until this is fixed.
The chiropractic helped my scoliosis as well. I had a scoliotic pattern and the chiropractic worked. It was great. It didn't work on everything, but it really helped with that. That was fantastic.
okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm a big believer.
must have been very mentally challenged for you because you had been an athlete as well, right?
Like to consider myself a little softball player, something I did as a kid, but even more, I encouraged my daughters to play, and both of them played in college. But in that opportunity, we decided that when they graduated from college, that they could pay forward what they learned. And after they got out of college, we started our own softball program. And we were teaching young ladies how to get access to college scholarships. And, it was a lot of fun. And I always told them, Coach K don't run. If you see Coach K running, you better run too because a bear just crashed out of the woods. So it's like, I'm there. I'm going to take care of the paperwork. I'm going to do the uniforms. I'm going to do, the things that keep the team running. But hitting balls, oh no, no. Catching them with, oh no, that hurts. Oh, these bones don't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So now we kind of dived in a little bit earlier. Let's go back a little bit. So you got this diagnosis of some connective tissue disorder. You got all the various doctors engaged working with you. So, but it sounded like, so take us through again what you felt you weren't getting from them and how you decided to sort of take control yourself.
Well, it wasn't that they weren't doing the individual things that they were supposed to do. It just was not a cohesive plan for me. And what I needed to figure out was what was my magic. What was it that I needed to do at the very minimum to keep me in top shape? So when it came to, what the cardiologist said was, I got to get my resting heart rate down. I get my blood pressure down. Okay. He offered me medications. Okay. I didn't want to do those.
And why
So,
didn't you want to do medication?
well, a lot of reasons. I have a a lightweight system when it comes to chemicals. So, I literally can't stand perfume. So when it comes to anything that's foreign, my skin bubbles, my hair falls out, whatever it might be. I don't want to find out what the side effects are. So I prefer, if there's a way to get my resting heart rate down, tell me what it is without medication.
Kay, you're really brilliant because I mean, everybody has sensitivities. I don't care who it is to pharmaceuticals, and the fact that you're really sensitive told you and I want our listeners to really understand that everybody's got sensitivity. It's just a question of some people have a lot, like you, and some people have only a little bit and don't feel much of anything, but they're still there. And I just think it's really brilliant the fact that because I'm sitting here wondering, I'm a holistic health expert and I've treated thousands of people, and I'm wondering, what did she do? I want to know. So anyway, I just want to say congratulations, and I'm excited to hear what's next.
Thanks, Dr. Levine.
And so, yeah, I'll let you tell you what Bob did. It sounds like your process engineering mindset kind of kicked in. So using that, tell us what you did, how you started taking control there. Okay.
Well, I've been helping organizations figure out how we're doing our work and how can we do it more efficiently, more effectively. So very often what I do is I create visual depictions of your business processes, and that can be in the form of charts and graphs. So if you're trying to figure out what do I need to do to amplify my business, create more efficiency, create less defects, I can create a chart for that. So that same concept, if I can see my weight next to my blood pressure, how it affects my sleep, how these affect my body temperature, and all these different things, including the weather, affect my function, then I can have a better way of understanding exactly how to fine tune my day to get the results I'm looking for.
Wow. Fantastic. It's such an integrative approach, a holistic approach you're taking, looking at all the different parameters. And that's what, every excellent practitioner should be doing anyway. And you're doing it as a patient or client or somebody who is having health challenges. So fantastic. Really great.
So you started collecting this data and connections portion. Did you share this with your primary care physician that you were doing? You were doing this? What'd you do with that? What'd you do with the care team that you had?
Well, rotations back and forth, seeing them. Of course, my physical therapist and my chiropractor were my immediate weekly interactions. So the first thing was I started putting muscle back on and doing it with just simple resistance exercises. And I'm finding I'm getting so much stronger, and that pain in my shoulders is gone. And if it comes back, if I get that resistance band and I give it 5 minutes, the pain is gone. So I'm learning based on what I'm doing how to rebuild my body. Now, of course, hey, I went through my course of time with my physical therapist. I'm feeling great. Hey, I'm healed. I'm done with that. Don't need to do that anymore. The things I stopped doing came back on me. Oh my goodness.
So
Things started hurting and falling apart again. I'm like, okay, I can't not do that. So let me figure out what's the right cadence. Now I got the cardiologist is saying you got to get this blood pressure and you got to get this resting heart rate number. So okay, while I'm doing the physical therapy, ooh, look at there. I'm getting I'm getting some movement in my blood pressure. Now I'm feeling a little, a little stronger. I'm getting tighter. I'm getting smaller. I'm getting stronger. And throughout this process, now I'm like, okay, my resting heart rate is down. Blood pressure's still up. Hmm. Okay, I got to do a little more cardio. All right, I got to get a little more cardio in here. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, and now I got the physical therapy. I got the chiropractic going on a regular basis, making sure everything stays lined up. So as I'm strengthening, I'm putting it in the right place. I'm structuring myself over, and it feels amazing. But now I got to figure out what's my magic. So I figured my magic numbers are 3 and 1. So 3 days of exercise, 1 day of rest. I start with my physical therapy. The next day, I do my strength training. The following day, I do my cardio, and then I take a day of rest. So
Nice.
as long as I keep my cycle going, I'm feeling tip top all the time. I don't really care what I weigh because I feel great.
Okay. So,
Nice.
so when did you first started know in this sort of process, and as you put things together, when did you first started noticing a change? How long did it take you to progress, and then how long did it take you to progress?
Well, kinda like in that time frame, I'm still doing my homework, I'm doing research, and I found the waist to hip ratio. And that rung my bell so nicely because BMI over my whole life in the ninth grade, I was running track. I'm doing the 100-meter hurdles, the 200 dash, and the shot put. And my coach comes to me and tells me, "Ninth grade, according to this scale, you're obese."
I hate BMI. I just want to tell you.
Yeah, weight struggle started in the ninth grade.
Wow.
So my whole life, I've been doing the yo-yo, lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it. And when I found the waist to hip ratio, it clicked. It clicked. It said that a healthy woman's body has a waist to hip ratio of a 0.85 or lower. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense to me.
Nice.
So I'm thinking, okay, measure myself. I'm a 0.96. Well, that means my stomach is just about as big as my hips. Now I have a target. Now I have a number I can see in my mind, and I'm thinking, who's my model? Ooh, Beyonce. She's got that little waist and the big hips, built like a black woman. I'll do what she does. So in that process, I'm getting stronger. I'm gonna be one of Beyonce's backup dancers. That's what I'm gonna be.
Okay, I got to jump in here because what you're doing, Kay, is brilliant for our listeners. See, you're visualizing your future. I call it
Yes,
future visioning, and
yes.
you're focused on what you want, which is most people don't have the ability to do that. They're focusing on what they don't want to have, and they try and push it away, and they can't focus on what they want. So you're focusing on what you want, which is this great looking Beyonce type body, being a Beyonce backup dancer. I mean, go girl. You know, it's like it's phenomenal. And so our listeners want to know that that's the pathway to success is focusing on what you want and then living towards that. And then you get there. And then the journey to get there, especially like in your case, the journey's been enjoyable because you're making progress in the areas you want to make progress in, right?
It was all about my why, Bob. It was all about my why. I've got twin grandbabies. They're 5 years old, and they were born right in the midst of the pandemic. They were preemies, and it was like, okay, this is everything to me because during that process, my daughter had an emergency C-section, and they ended up sheltering here throughout a lot of that pandemic stuff. So I'm thinking, yeah, I don't wanna be the old lady in the bed talking about, "Show me some pictures." No, I want it to be there. I want it to be in the stands when they're playing ball. I want it to be at the park. I wanna be that grandma that's loud and going up the slides the wrong way. So I wanna be a part of those core memories. And this past weekend, oh my gosh, I got a chance to go to a place that I would have said no 2 years. I would have said, "No, I can do that." I went to a Tennessee Vols football game with my grandbabies in the stands, and we did the wave together like 5 times. I'm like, "This is life."
Yeah,
But
beautiful.
2 years ago, I would have said there's no way I could walk that hill and get into that stadium and sit on those hard benches. But now I put the muscle on. I'm ready. Let's go.
Nice. You're such a great model for everyone who's listening, because we all have different things we're working on. So you worked on what you needed to work on. Other people need to work on or want to work on what they're working on, and they can use your whole approach and attitude to map it onto what they're working on. So it's a
Yeah, we actually
such a
put together a system for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just such a fantastic presentation for our listeners. Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
And so, sometimes, what you did in the stanza and at the game, sometimes that's can be a little hard for people to grasp what that means. For example, I'll give nobody can understand now if when I step off a curb and I don't feel any pain in the curve of my knee. Most people say, they just can't grasp what that means because they haven't been through all that.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that's something else that you shared with me one time, I think they can grasp more is talk about when you were playing with one of your grandkids and what happened then here recently.
It blew my mind. A couple of months late, it was August. We were at the playground. I don't get the chance to see them that often because they live 6 hours away. So I got a chance to take them, and we were at the playground, and they wanted to get on the monkey bars. So I gave them a boost. They're 5, so I gave them a boost to get up there, and they're hanging on the monkey bars, and they're trying to make that next move. And after a while, they're like, "Okay, I'm good." So I'm like, "Shoot, I'll jump up here too." Boom,
Oh
jumped
boy.
on the monkey bars, and I'm like, let me see if I can do a pull-up. Oh my pull-ups! I've never done a pull-up in my life, even when I was running track.
See
And
now,
what's blowing my mind is I've never used anything heavier than a 10-pound hand weight because my joints just can't manage that.
yep, beautiful.
It's
Now I'll make a couple comments here. See, when I pointed to the fact being an athlete before, you kind of hit. Oh, I played a little softball. Now you're talking about all this track running and things you did before, and then that fell apart. But I think that's something. I think there are a lot of people who can't do a pull up. And after you're talking about your connective tissue things and kind of the lack of a better term, double jointedness, and being able to lift your grandkids up, do the pull up yourself. I think that's that to me, that like you said, that's living and that's dynamic, and I think a lot of people can really grasp what that would mean given the state that you're at in there. So how long did it take you, do you think, to get to the point where you're thriving and have things under?
Well, believe it or not, once I found that waist to hip ratio, I decided, that was my focus. Every time I thought about those grandkids, I would go, squeeze my core and tighten it, hold it for a few seconds. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That became my focus. So through that time frame, I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn up the music. And while I'm doing the dishes and putting the dishes in the dishwasher, I'll be twerking down to put them in the dishwasher. And I'm doing line dancing while I'm vacuuming. And I'm trying to make sure I'm, doing those things that I would think could wind my waist. I'm
Nice.
doing my salsa kind of moves. And 2 months, I got to that healthy woman's number, that
But
point
you
eight.
went below 8.5 or whatever that number was. Was it 8.5?
I have gone all the way to 0.77.
Woo!
Yeah, and it's no effort because I eat like a horse. I'll eat my husband every day. And it's like my muscles, they want it. They're eating it up. They're giving me energy. They've changed my metabolism. So it's like even, my kids are like, dang, I'm playing rougher with the twins than they are. I mean,
That's so good. So good.
it feels good to wrestle with kids. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to wrestle with 5-year-olds?
Well, and they love that too. They love it.
But yeah, that's where the core memories are. I want,
Yeah.
as soon as they can remember that, I want them to be thinking about that lady's crazy.
Nice though. Nice.
So when did you first realize or that you had really put together a system for yourself?
The system came about when I recognized cognitive behavioral therapy was something I needed, but I didn't know I needed it. And a friend brought it up to me and was like, "You beat yourself up a lot. You talk. You're kind of negative." And people meet me and they're like, "Oh, she's so nice. She's so upbeat." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." But in my head, I was tearing me up. I was, you can't do this, and nobody wants to hear your story, and all these different things that I was telling myself was like once I went through and started writing down those anxious moments and those automatic thoughts and those things that I was saying to myself in my head, I was like, girl, you can't talk like that to nobody. You wouldn't say that to your worst enemy. Why would you say that to yourself? So I got a handle on that. And when I realized that we can work towards getting what's important to us when we have identified our why. And my why is going to be totally different than yours. My challenges, my body type, my goals are going to be totally different from yours. So, using the robustness of the Salesforce platform, it gives me the ability to configure without worrying about the back stuff, how the system works. It gives me the ability to give you everything, including the security, and also be able to track your information that you need to solve your problem.
So I just want to, you're putting out so many gems here. Another gem is a tool you use. It sounds to me like you were using some journaling. Is that accurate? You were keeping track of the thoughts you were having in your head relating to yourself. And then you
Yes.
you figured out that, wow, I'm having these thoughts and talking to myself this way. This can't possibly be helping me. Therefore, I'm going to shift that. That's really important for our listeners to know, because we've all heard the expression, there's nobody harder on me than me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nobody harder on them than them. And so if people understand that, they can then use that journaling approach that you use, which just jotting down some of the things that they're thinking about. It's such a great tool. I love that you brought that up, because I typically don't encourage that, only because it was out of my view, but now it's in my view. So now I can encourage that. But it's such it's because people learn in different ways. And plus, when you write stuff down, you can go back and review it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time every time you're thinking about it, right? You might think of all
Yeah.
these great things. If you don't write them down, then it's like, wow, what was I thinking before? I had some great stuff going on, and where is it? So I love the fact that you brought that up. And I wanted to just say that it's really important for our listeners to understand the power of that tool.
Yeah. And that's the first part of the program. So our system is a 10
Well,
steps.
before you get so I
Sure.
did kind of say, program and system, and I know you got one. I know, and you want to share it because it can be helpful to others. Where I was at a little bit is, did you create a system so you achieved these goals? Did you create a system for yourself first? Or did you say, hey, I've achieved these goals and now I want to help others. So then you created the system. So what was the sequence?
Well, you know how God works. So it started out that my son-in-law, after they had those preemie twins, he was managing a university football system. And when he went back to work, he was like, oh my God, what a black hole of information he just fell into. And he was like, oh my gosh, where are my players? Who's on campus? Who's going home? Who's at grandma's house getting all fat? Who's in the hood not getting enough to eat? What are they exercising? Who had COVID? Who was with them? Who cleaned that building? Who canceled that event? Oh my God, where's the bus? We got to get these kids home. They can't send them home. They got COVID. Oh my God. And it was like, how do you manage all of this information? I'm like, well, shoot, Salesforce has got something in the App Exchange. I'm sure that will do that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm hunting, and there's nothing in the App Exchange that will do that. So I'm like, well, I got nothing to do but watch these sleeping babies. I'll build. And that's where I started building an app that could track those types of information. What kind of workouts are they doing? What's their weight, their body mass? Who's had that illness? Who's had the shots? So we started tracking, and he was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. That's going to be so helpful. And he's going back and talking to the trainers and the coaches and the administrators. He's coming back and feeding me, and I'm building. I'm building. So
Nice.
one, I'm learning my skill. Two, I'm, putting my stuff out there. And three, I got recruited to Salesforce based on the work and the learning I was getting. So here I am now. I'm working at the company doing the consulting I always wanted to do. And I find myself breaking down, and I'm like, oh my God, I got all these doctors, all this information. Hmm, I'll put that in the app that I built for my son-in-law.
So the app is your system. I presume you'll get to that later. But
Hmm.
so for our listeners to know, you've built an app to assemble varied information that relates to each other, and you can use the app to analyze some of the relationships and keep track of all that stuff, right?
Yep, you
Very
got
cool.
it.
Very cool. Nice.
All right. So so when did you decide? Let's just go ahead and go down that path. You're now thriving yourself. You've gone through before we go down the path, I want to go through one other thing. You talked about research earlier. So you talked about one you changed, you got your own cognitive behavior modifications for yourself. Yeah. You talked about a couple other things you did, the tracking the data, and you found this, but you said, boy, when I looked, I still had this challenge off. I don't remember if it was the blood pressure, what have you. So I did my research. How'd you go about that research? And how did you know that you had good sources?
I do like to use chat. It is an opportunity, but I always ask chat to cite the sources that we get from it. So I do, look, myself, I am extremely analytical. I'm a learner first. You give me information, I'm going to throw it all in the hopper. Then I'm going to hop it around up in there and see if it all makes sense. And from there, get my answers from the conglomeration of research. So I don't like to go out there on a humbug. But in the meantime, I have been helping these companies look at their own information. And by doing these things, when people see things the same way, they're more likely to come to the same conclusion. So if I have my data and I see it this way, and then I share that data with my doctor and he sees it that way, we're 10% closer to coming to a solution that's going to work for both of us.
Very nice. Yeah, I think another message for people is that we all have to do our own research. We can hear a lot of things. It sounds decent, makes sense. We need to do our own research and so that's probably the biggest one of the big messages for today. Do the research, because doing research is not hard. People get intimidated, but it's not. You basically are just gathering information, reading it, and you're doing an assessment of it. And you're getting multiple opinions about a certain topic. And so and also what's really cool about what you've been doing is that you're also thinking outside the box. When you do your research and you interpret all the different pieces, right? You have to think outside the box and you have to look at interrelationships. And it's not that hard to do. People can do that on their own. So I think that's something we should encourage people to know that they can do.
And that's the beauty of what I built into the system. I'm not a medical professional. You're not going to get medical advice from me. You're going to get a place to put your information so that you can see what it's doing. If my blood pressure is going like this, my glucose is going like that, my sleep is going like this, I need to talk to somebody.
So, and like you said, that research and information gives you the ability to talk to somebody intelligently and really get more out of it. So
Yes.
we keep wanting to get into your new grandbaby, your system. So let's just go ahead and go into that. Okay. So what is this? Why did you decide to come up with the system, and what is it?
Well, it really kind of became a system after my husband went through what he went through. And again, I love my black men, but they don't love doctors. Everything's all right until it ain't. So he had the high blood pressure, dealing with that for years. He had the high cholesterol, dealing with that. Then he got the diabetes. Oh gosh. Well, here comes what's next, AFib. And what comes with the recipe of AFib and high blood pressure and diabetes? Stroke. So he went there and then he got tachycardia and he coded 3 times.
Wow.
So in that process, we're in the hospital and he's like, yeah, he sees the stress on my face and he's like, I'll turn it. I promise I'm going to turn it around. And when he got out, he was saying, okay, first thing, I'm going to get the diabetes under control. And he was like, okay, focus on the numbers. I need to stay in range every day, all day. And he got real serious about that. And he was like, ooh, that apple really ran my numbers up. Not going to eat that anymore. And then seeing what foods would have different effects on his body, he started staying in range and the weight just started falling off. So then he's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym now. I'm gonna go to the gym. So now he's going to the gym and he's coming home all sweaty with a swagger. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I can't just be sending you out there looking all good and stuff. So I got to get me some of that too. So now we're looking at our numbers, we're comparing, we're cheering each other on, we're competing, and it's like, oh, look at what you did, boy. You have pulled, you have look at your weight numbers. I'm so proud of you. And that's like, yeah, he's like, yeah. And
You
check
and
out
your
this bicep. I'm like,
you
it grew by 3 centimeters. Yes.
you and your husband need to be leading seminars all over the place.
Well, they-
Seriously. Yeah, that's what I see for your future.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. I just have fun with this.
So what did you name this new baby, Kay?
My baby is Live-Alytics, and it really depends on how you feel as to how you want to say it today. So if you're living a little, then it's Live-Alytics. But if you are live like I am, then it's Live-Alytics. So it gives you the opportunity to know who you are. We have a know yourself system. And in this, you go through 10 steps to build a pyramid like Noah built an ark to protect his family, his legacy, and all the animals. So what we do is we're going to build a pyramid. And at the top of this pyramid is your black belt in health and fitness and wellness.
But you say it gives you an opportunity to know yourself. What give me more on that, Kay. Explain that
Like
to me.
really, we start with the white belt level, which is where you learn yourself. The first step is managing negative thoughts. Gotta get a handle on those because every program we've ever tried before, this is the thing that's the big problem. The second step is know yourself. God didn't make any mistakes. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Each one of us, we need to accept who we are and be cool with that. The third step is to know your numbers. God was really specific with Noah when he told him, these are the numbers, the measurements that I want you to build this ark by. Question: what did your doctor say when you last went? That you were pre-diabetic? Did he say your blood pressure was on the borderline? What are you doing about those numbers? And then step 4 is setting some goals. What do I need to change? Write the vision and make it plain. I need to identify those 5 things that maybe I need to track that are going to help me reach my health goals. Your 5 things or 3 things or 2 things that you decide to track may be totally different from mine. So my experience is going to be different than yours. And that's how we built the system so that you go based on what you need, where you are, and the challenges you want to take on. Now, you notice I ain't saying nothing about exercising yet, right? That's the blue belt level. That's when we get to moving. But it's not going out and going to the gym. It's brainstorming some of the things that you might like to do that you can raise your heart rate with. Is it gardening? Is it golfing? Is it pickleball? And then we'll figure out how to put these into our weekly, daily schedule. That's step 6. And then step 7 is figuring out now we've gone through all of this. We use about 1 step a week. So it's a 10-week pyramid. We get there on step 7 and we're like, okay, what is working for me? What is not? And what can I adjust without quitting? Then into level 3, that's when you're starting to put together that life plan. What is my health going to look like 5 years from now? Step 9, getting consistent. And then step 10, where you're that black belt. Oh, I'm mastering my life. I got this. And now I need to go lead some family members, some community members, some church members, some work, some personnel, whoever I need to take through this process. Now I'm equipped to do it in my community.
So beautiful. So Bob, you're clapping there. What are you clapping about, Bob?
Well, because I said that I saw her as a future seminar leader on stage and with her and her husband, and now she's talking about going out in the community, and that's exactly what there is to do. Get out there and share your knowledge and your all the great tips and tools that you put together, and you've got a system now that people can use, and I love the system, by the way. And
Thank you.
yeah, so that's why I'm clapping, because she's you're pretty amazing, Kay.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
So how long has Live-Alytics been available for people to use now?
Well, we are available online. We do have our web-based program and app totally available. We're working on making it 100% available on the App Store, but you can use it on your phone just like you can go to any other website, and it looks just like it does on the website. So, yeah, it's available now.
Have,
I've
have
been
you
using it at my own church.
And
And
what's the feedback from the church been and people in the church?
well, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. We use it in combination. So some of our church members are elderly. My little group that I work with is on average about 75 years old. We've got a 94-year-old and two 89-year-olds in our group. And we get in and we do our little exercise. We have them come to the open gym 3 days a week. First thing, we check their numbers. We check their blood pressure and their glucose. And when they join the program, we take their weight, we take their body fat percentage, and we take their muscle mass. So we help them to understand what all these numbers are, who's in range, where they are, and all these things. And then as we check their blood pressure and it's like, it's high this morning, they're like, ooh, what did you eat? Then we have a conversation. Oh, well, I ate this. Oh, I ate that. Well, okay, I had bacon. I had, pancakes this morning. Okay, well, you see what the bacon did to your blood pressure. Or you see what the pancakes did to your glucose. They're like, okay, all right. So next week they're coming in. Yeah, check my blood pressure. I didn't have bacon this morning. I didn't have any coffee. Yeah, check my glucose because I only ate a little bit of syrup on my pancakes. I'm like, yes, that's what we want. The
Nice.
numbers have changed. We started with our church, and of course, African Americans, we got health disparities. It's true. When we started measuring at our church, the prevalence of hypertension was 72% of all the numbers we were taking. We got that down to 46% for the members that have been coming regularly.
Over what period of time?
That was since this summer.
Right. Yeah, with every one of my clients, I teach proper walking because the average person takes between 30,000 and 50,000 repetitive movements every day. And walking is a huge percentage of that. And almost everybody is walking incorrectly. And I've had people, the reason I'm bringing this up is related to blood pressure. I have had people that I gave them the videos to watch to teach them how to walk properly, and they were able to walk their way out of high blood pressure. And some of them got off their meds because when you walk properly, the calf pumps, the blood goes back to the heart the way it's supposed to. So I'd be happy to give you this program. If you go to wellwavenow.com, wellwavenow.com, it's all yours. Spread it around. Get these people walking properly. If you have any questions, you can give me a call. I think my number's in there. Anyway, I love what you're doing with the churches. And, I think, you said African Americans have health disparities. I just think a lot of that happens to do with what we're taught and what we learn and the patterns that we get into in our families and things like that. I think I'd like to see the African American community be the healthiest community on the planet. And I think it's doable, So I've always felt that way.
I'm working on it. I'm a ripple in the pond.
So let me help you. I'll help you because I've been thinking this for 30 years. In fact, one of my dreams is to get enough resources together to do a clinical study with African Americans showing that we can take their numbers and their whole profile and complete transformation, collect all the data, do all the statistics. And then what's interesting is when you do it with an African American community, you can't just extrapolate to any other community. So the clinical studies have to be done with Caucasians and with Latinos and whoever. So anyway, that's something that's kind of cool. And I just wanted to bring it up because I've been thinking about it for more than 30 years. So.
Let's do it, Dr. Bob. I got the
Okay.
place to put your data. Let's do it.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
So is that why you decided to start with or to approach churches with Live-Alytics, or what's your whole rationale behind that? Because I want the audience to know, like you said, they can go up to your site, Live-Alytics. So spell it out for us, Kaye. How do you spell Live-Alytics?
Live-Alytics is L-I-V.
That's a great name.
Right. So individuals can go up there and they can use it and engage now. But part of what your approach is, you're targeting church communities. Why have you taken that path? And how should people run? Why should people run to their churches, their synagogues, their temples, their shrines, and say, "Boy, bring this in house and let's work it."
Well, if you think about it, our churches have always been more than just worship centers. They're also community centers. They provide when people are lacking. And here we are. We're in a situation where people are hungry, people have needs. And on top of that, 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs with this whole DEI, scrub kind of thing.
Mhm.
So when we lost our jobs, we lost our insurance coverage as well. So with that, we have a lot of uncertainty in the community. Our worship centers being community centers, this is where we can start to support each other. When things are unstable, the church has a place to be the stabilizer.
Yeah,
because, people come to them after the stroke, after the tragedy. But if we can be a house of prevention, we can be that much more powerful because even the churches need their soldiers to be strong.
absolutely. I've found that the African American and church community is really compliant too. Like they're hungry for information. In fact, all church communities hungry for information and hungry to put that information to work. And I did a program years ago at New Hope Missionary Baptist Church in Michigan with 164 African Americans, and I did a lot of programs with thousands of people, and that was probably the best program because of the desire to put what they were learning from me to work. And they did it, and we collected the data, and it provided the best data we ever had in any program, which we did lots of programs with different mixes and Caucasians and all kinds of different things. So I just wanted to say that the compliance factor in the church community and the Black church community is really high. And that's why it's a great place to be doing this kind of work.
And that's what happens when they find a system they can trust.
Okay.
That's huge.
Okay.
Well,
And
and it has to make sense. If this, look, anybody can analyze if something makes sense or not. 2 + 2 = 25. Okay, that doesn't make sense, right? Anybody can analyze that. Even a second grader, third grader can do that, right? So the making sense part is easy for everybody. It's a question of what kind of information are we providing and how simple is it to absorb. The information I provide people is so simple. It has to be. I don't care how smart somebody is. In fact, if somebody's overly smart, they're not going to get it anyway. They got to digest it. So simple information is the best for everybody.
Mhm.
and
Yep.
then
And
you
a
went
lot of times they go to the doctor and it's like, "Take this pill," and that's it. I'm
That's it.
said, "Take the pill," and I'm taking the pill. Well, what is the pill doing? I don't know.
So you're giving people the system. You're giving them, the helping them track the data, helping them make some decision part of it. But I also notice in this part, I think this could be key. You said you and your husband are doing some of tracking with the people and counseling. So do you do that with every church that signs up for Live-Alytics, or do you teach some teachers there and enable them to do it? What's your
Well, I wanna teach the teachers. Every church has somebody who's got a medical background at that church. Somebody exists at that church that's a
Yeah,
nurse,
they've
a
got
CNA.
whether it's nurse aide, home health aide, nurse, doctor.
Somebody knows how to take blood pressure. Somebody knows how to take glucose. Somebody knows how to read and how to track and how to put numbers in and understand what these numbers mean. Eventually, I want my system, which we're working on the AI now, to be able to identify a blood pressure as what category it is in, and then tell the people, okay, your crisis, you need to go to the doctor right now, or here it's elevated. Here's 5 things you can do to get it down. So I want to be able to help and provide each church with the support they need, but they have to create the teams. They have to, figure out if this person needs me to track the data for them, or if this person can put these numbers in themselves, or if this person has all the capabilities, smart watches, and everything else, and they can do it themselves, but they just want a team to be a part of. Then this is what we offer to a church. We offer them the background, the setup, the tools. They just need to be the engagers to keep people on the calendar,
Wow.
on a cadence, and then keep them accountable.
So I got to say, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who, an African American friend of mine who I've known for like 20 years. And he's moving out there now to hundreds of churches to bring all kinds of things to the churches. And what you're doing would fit in perfectly. So I need to hook you guys up.
And what I
Thank
also
you.
like, good, Dr. Bob. What I also like in there, while of course everywhere from the kids up, should be engaged, in my opinion. I like the fact that you've got 75 people, 75-year-olds and above in there right now for a couple reasons. One, I used to run a home care agency for the elderly that operate in 3 states, and part of the reason I started getting into wellness is because I saw many of them giving up on themselves, many of their families giving up on themselves, and even worse, many of their health providers giving up and saying, "This is just what you've got to go through." Dr. Bob has heard me talk about this one myself a few times. I've got what I call my Moses plan, as you talk about it. And if you look biblically, in Genesis, God said, I won't let my spirit contend with man for more than 120 years. So I take that plus some scientific things and say, lifespan should really be about 100, 120. So people at 75 shouldn't be done. Shouldn't be people at 80 shouldn't necessarily be done and decrepit. Then number two, the Moses plan is if you look at it, Moses was 120 years old, and 120 years old could still climb a mountain and could have kept going, but God just said, I've had enough of you right now. And
The
there's another
time's
one
up.
in there, Caleb, that was from where when the two Jewish spies went over and scouted out the land. And I think he was 80 years old. At 80 years old, he said, I can still go out and come in, which means, and let's take that as the truth, not the just bragging or speculating. That means you can still leave people out in the battle and come back like it was before. So there's a lot, to me, there's a lot that can be done with people of that age range. It should be done with them, and they shouldn't be given up.
You ought to see those old ladies in my thing. They get competitive over those numbers.
God, so good, so good. Well, you're
So
creating community with them, and that's the beauty of it. It's so beautiful.
It's so much fun. We have a blast.
yeah, but in fact, we've got a person coming up in December as part of our other wellness hero who's 83 years old and out there thriving and running around. I got another buddy of mine who's 84 years old. We might have to come on, and he was just talking. Him and his wife, and I think she's the same age. They were talking about they must have walked 10 miles, and he was complaining a little bit about his knees. Well,
Yeah,
heck, about it.
I've got a whole nother story to tell about my 89-year-old father and how he turned his health around from being a cancer survivor 2 years ago, and now he's doing things, playing golf and talking about, "Oh, I only got in the cart 3 times."
Yep. So we'll
Okay, you
bring.
played a whole 18 and you only got in the cart 3 times?
Right.
Amazing.
Okay.
Great. So yeah, so we'll have to have you back as part that is proof. Maybe him and your husband is proof that your Live-Alytics works not only just for you, but has
Yeah.
worked for them as well, and how it's done it.
Let's get all 3
Now,
of them on. That'd be great.
yeah. So now,
Alright.
so you've taken this and you're living well and you're thriving, and I think you and Bob have done a nice job of kind of bringing out some highlights here. The cognitive behavior, future vision, interrupt the pattern, get your mind right, stop a negative talk, all those good things. Numbers, have your
They
numbers,
matter.
percentage
Yeah.
exchange, advocate for yourself. But now, how's along the lines we were just going through though? How has all this changed your view about performance for yourself in life and performance for others?
Unlimited. It is unlimited. I look back at, where I came from, and I am so proud of myself. I am so proud of my husband. I am so proud of my dad because, we've all come from that place that we could have been gone. Immobility will kill you faster than cancer.
Yep.
So it was, the the want and the will to share this with others because it's not too late. My mother had a stroke at the age of 67 on Mother's Day. She took pretty good care of herself, but she was in a really stressful situation doing something that was extremely stressful that day. And when she got home, she made it to the driveway and had the stroke in the driveway. And it blew such a big hole in my family. She was the matriarch. She was the big dinner. She was the big breakfast where we all gathered and loved on each other. And when that changed, it changed my whole family. So now that's me. I'm the one that's planning the big gathering and the family reunions and cooking the tons and tons of food. But I saw that it was having a huge impact on me because yeah, at the end of Christmas, we done spent 5, 6 days together. I've cooked everything from the kitchen sink to the refrigerator. And here we are 2 days later. I am sick as a dog. I didn't want to do that anymore because I got to go back to work. So now I figured out how I can store up my energy, be ready for it. And still on the other end, now I still got energy to keep going for the next season. Next year, New Year's, I am 100% in.
All right, beautiful.
Nice. Beautiful.
So I think what you've done, applaud it, and it really shows that with a discipline, awareness, and faith, and putting things into practice, that you can transform your life, and that's a great example. And, your journey has not ended there. It was just that recovery that now you're thriving, and you've turned that into mission to help others measure, track, and celebrate their own progress through Live-Alytics. And I want to thank you for that. Look forward to having you back. To our listeners and viewers, I want to remind you to subscribe to the Wellness Wave Club on YouTube for more stories like this and other helps and tips to help you on your way. You can also join our Facebook community. Just go, it's called the Wellness Wave Club URL. And on there, it's actually called the Wellness Circle, powered by the Wellness Wave Club. And that's where you can come and get help from your community and share insights with people like Kaye and others, and even get some guided things from people like Dr. Bob on that. And then I ask you to share this episode with anyone that you think needs to work on their own comeback on that. And meanwhile, as Breck, who was unable to be with us today, always says, remember, wellness, it's in you.
Thanks for being here, Kaye. You're really fabulous. And I'm looking